On Mount Olympus, where immortal power dances with thunder and light, where jealousy and hatred seem unthinkable, there lies a silent fracture, deep and ancient. Among gods and eternity, one emotion still lingers, something deeply human, envy. And no one embodied that envy more than Hera, the queen of the gods. Hera, the divine symbol of marriage and family, was also the very force that unleashed her fury upon innocent children, not for anything they did, but for who they were. They were Zeus's children, yet not hers. Today we step into one of the most tragic chapters of Greek mythology, where the most regal goddess of Olympus became the nightmare of those born outside her womb, simply because they were living proof of her husband's betrayal. Betrayed love, the root of all vengeance. When Zeus, the almighty ruler of Olympus, married Hera, the heavens believed it to be the perfect union. Hera, the embodiment of sacred marriage.
Zeus, the king of all existence.
But it wasn't long before Hera realized, in this divine marriage, she was the only one who believed in fidelity. Zeus, like an endless storm, roamed the earth sowing seeds of life wherever his gaze fell, from goddesses to nymphs, even mortal women. And these weren't just fleeting passions, they bore children. Little lives. Living proof of his betrayals. Hera couldn't confront Zeus directly. The king of the gods held the power to punish anyone, wife or not. So she found another way to exact revenge. She turned her wrath upon the children born of his affairs. From that moment, names like Heracles, Dionysus, Artemis, Apollo, Hermes, even Hebe, despite their divine blood, could not escape Hera's cold, venomous gaze. Were these children guilty of anything? No. But to Hera, they were the embodiment of betrayal, sharp wounds carved into the pride of a goddess who had spent her eternal life defending honor and position. Heracles, the son cursed from birth. Among all of Zeus's illegitimate children, none suffered more under Hera's wrath than Heracles, the greatest hero of Greek mythology. His story began in Thebes, where a kind-hearted mortal woman named Alcmene was seduced by Zeus, who had taken the form of her husband. From that fateful night, Heracles was born, half god, half man. And from that moment, Hera's hatred took root. Even before his birth, Hera plotted his demise. She delayed Alcmene's labor with divine trickery, ensuring that Heracles' cousin, Eurystheus, was born first, stealing the glorious destiny that the fates had promised to Heracles. But Hera wasn't finished. As a newborn, Heracles faced his first trial. 2 enormous serpents slithered into his crib under the veil of night, sent by Hera herself. Yet the infant did not cry. He crushed the snakes with his bare hands, as his mother screamed in terror. Having failed to kill him, Hera changed her tactics. She wouldn't destroy Heracles' body, she would ruin his life. She would shadow his path with pain, turn glory into torment, and ensure that suffering followed him like a curse. When Heracles came of age, strong and noble, Hera struck again, this time, poisoning his mind. In a frenzy of madness, he slaughtered his own wife and children. That tragic act set him on the path of redemption, the 12 labors, 12 impossibly brutal tasks no mortal had ever faced. And behind every trial, stood Hera. Plotting.
Interfering.
Trying to break him. To end him. But there was one thing Hera didn't foresee: with every torment, Heracles only grew stronger. Her hatred forged a legend. And when his mortal journey ended, Heracles ascended to Olympus, not as a shamed son, but as a god. And in a twist of divine irony, he was granted a seat among the immortals, right beside Hera. What began as punishment became destiny. What was meant to destroy him made him eternal.
Dionysus, the child de nier the right to exist.
If Heracles was the embodiment of relentless punishment, then Dionysus, the god of wine, ecstasy, and madness, was proof of something crueler: absolute denial.
Not thunderbolt. Not serpent.
But the refusal to even be born. It began with Semele, a mortal princess, so ordinary that no one believed she could ever be loved by a god. But Zeus, as always, fell into passion. Disguised as a mortal, he came to her, and from that union, a child was conceived. When Hera learned of it, she didn't unleash open fury. Instead, she chose poison disguised as wisdom. In the form of an old woman, she visited Semele and whispered a seed of doubt. If your child truly belongs to Zeus, why has he never revealed his true form to you? Doubt grew like rot. In their next meeting, Semele begged Zeus to reveal himself in all his divine glory. He pleaded with her not to ask, but he had sworn on the river Styx to grant any request. He had no choice. And so, in a blaze of celestial fire, Zeus revealed his true form, and Semele, unable to withstand it, was consumed in divine flames, turned to ash in an instant. Her unborn child, Dionysus, was left motherless before he could draw breath. But Zeus would not let his son die. He tore open his own thigh, stitched the fetus inside, and carried the child himself until Dionysus was ready to be born. Thus Dionysus, the twice-born god, emerged from death into life, carried not by a mother, but by a god in mourning. Did Hera stop? No. She refused to let the child exist. From infancy, Dionysus was hunted. Monsters were sent. Madness followed. Humanity, under Hera's curse, met him with fear, hatred, and chaos. He wandered in exile, from Egypt to India, from Phrygia to Thrace, always on the run, always in disguise. The god of joy lived in fear.
The god of wine knew only bitterness.
And yet, it was through that suffering that Dionysus awoke. He realized, to survive, he could not hide. He had to embrace who he was, confront his pain. He began to share the gift of wine, of sacred madness, a divine intoxication that healed sorrow and revealed truth. Through his teachings, people rejoiced. And eventually, the gods accepted him, not as an outsider, but as one of the Olympians. Did Hera ever acknowledge him? Never. But Dionysus no longer needed her approval. He had carved his place among the gods not through privilege, but through defiance, through resilience, and by proving that even a life denied can become divine. Hephaestus, the son cast away by his own mother. Among all the pain Hera inflicted on Zeus's children, the most bitter, the most tragic, did not belong to an outsider. It belonged to her own son. Hephaestus, god of fire, forge, and craftsmanship, was born not of infidelity, but from Hera herself. Yet instead of pride or love, his first welcome was rejection. The moment he entered the world, Hera hurled him from Olympus. Why? There are many versions. Some say Hera bore Hephaestus alone, without Zeus, as a twisted response to Zeus birthing Athena without a mother. She sought to prove her divine power, that she too could create a perfect god, forged from her will alone. But what she received was a child with crooked legs and a limp, a body flawed in her eyes, unfit for Olympus. For a goddess who prized beauty and perfection, Hephaestus was a shame too great to bear. And so, without a second thought, she cast him down. A mother goddess of marriage, discarded her own son into the sea.
Héphaestus fell for days, crashing into the ocean, forgotten by Olympus.
Only Thetis and Eurynome, two gentle sea goddesses, rescued him. They raised him in secret, in the depths of the sea, where no one spoke his name. But Hephaestus did not wither. In silence, he endured. In flame, he found purpose. From metal and fire, he forged wonders no god had ever seen: Achilles' armor, Aphrodite's enchanted girdle, even Zeus's own thunderbolts.
And then came the moment of reckoning.
Hephaestus crafted a golden throne, flawless, divine, and sent it to Olympus as a gift for Hera. Believing it a gesture of reconciliation, she sat upon it. The moment she did, enchanted chains sprang forth, binding her in place, unmovable, unfree.
The god panicked.
Pleas rang out. Bribes were offered. In the end, they sent Dionysus with wine and kind words. Only then did Hephaestus return, unlocking the throne, releasing his mother, and claiming his rightful place among the Olympians. The irony? The child once cast aside became indispensable. And Hera? She never apologized. But from that day on, she never looked down on her son again. Hephaestus rose, not because he was forgiven, but because he made the gods need him. And in the glow of his eternal forge, one truth still burns, quiet, steady, and unspoken: the pain of being rejected by the one who gave you life. When blood isn't enough to save Hera from her own darkness. After all the stories of Hebe, Heracles, and Hephaestus, a more complex portrait of Hera emerges. She is not just the goddess of marriage and family. She is the embodiment of control, of jealousy, and of wounds that never truly heal. She was betrayed by the husband she once loved, humiliated by his endless affairs. And in return, she poured her pain onto the innocent, striking not only Zeus's lovers, but her own children. Behind the crown and divine dignity, Hera was a woman pushed to her limits, struggling to survive in a world ruled by male gods. She could not stop Zeus from straying, could not command loyalty, could not force the Olympians to respect her honor. So she did the only thing left to feel powerful: she punished the powerless. But in all that rage, did anyone truly win? Hera remained alone. None of the children she wronged ever loved her. Zeus kept on lying. And Hera, the same goddess who once led a rebellion against Zeus, who once bound the king of gods himself, was left only a shadow of her former greatness. Silent, bitter, trapped within the very torment she inflicted. Olympus is not heaven, it is a stage. And on that stage gods, immortal though they are, still envy, still rage, still love, and still suffer. Conflict, ambition, and heartbreak never end, for even in the most sacred of realms, the gods are still painfully human.
The leçon Hera vu Suisse.
Power cannot replace love. Even as queen of the cosmos, Hera could not hold Zeus's heart with might alone. Revenge does not heal pain. Every punishment she delivered only widened the distance between her and those she once called her own. Injustice is born from unheard sorrow. Had anyone truly listened to Hera, perhaps she would not have become so harsh, so consumed by bitterness. Forgiveness, though hardest of all, is the only path forward. And what Hera never learned is what ultimately kept her imprisoned, not by Olympus, but by the shadow of her own grief. Thank you for following the bitter and complex journey of Hera, the goddess of marriage, and a symbol of silent wounds no one dares to see. If this story touched something within you, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share, so we can continue uncovering the hidden tales behind the glory of Olympus, where power, love, vengeance, and humanity are forever entwined. See you in the next video, where the myths live on, and the gods still whisper their truths.